50 Shocking Reasons You'd Never Survive the Roman Empire. Dark Truths Revealed. The air crackled with tension as Marcus stood in the middle of a cold stone amphitheater, his heart racing like a wild animal. He glanced around, eyes darting from shadow to shadow, struggling to grasp the reality surrounding him. The stories whispered about the Roman Empire were nothing short of terrifying. Those lavish banquets? They masked a society rotting with secrets, corruption, and sheer brutality. Everyone claimed it was a golden age, but beneath the surface lurked horrors that threatened any soul who dared to cross the empire. A chill ran down his spine at the thought of gladiators fighting to the death, not just for glory but for mere survival. In the flickering torchlight, a figure emerged, a seasoned soldier, his eyes clouded with memories of bloodshed. "You think you could survive here?" he sneered, gripping the hilt of his sword. Behind him, a distant roar echoed, a crowd hungry for violence. Yes, the Romans knew how to feast, but their appetite extended far beyond food. It was the kind of hunger that left you breathless, insane, or worse, dead. Marcus noticed the stains on the stone floor, not just remnants of discarded feasts but of lives lost in unspeakable ways. Every corner of this empire was steeped in danger, and each moment felt like it could tip him into a dark abyss. Then there were the whispers of betrayal flowing through the streets like venom. Friends turned to foes with a glance, and treachery was as common as the rubble beneath Marcus's feet. He could feel the eyes on him, judging and calculating. The whispers grew louder, each one a reminder that in this cold world of iron and blood, trust was a luxury he could never afford. What if he didn't make it? What if he was just another victim waiting to happen? With every breath, the air thickened with anxiety and dread. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, slicing through the heavy silence. Marcus felt the color drain from his face. It wasn't just a cry of panic, it was a cry of pure terror. The crowd surged forward, the excitement pulsing through it like electricity. What were they witnessing? An execution? A betrayal? Every heartbeat echoed the weight of impending doom, and questions swirled in his mind like a tornado. Could he escape this madness, or was he already caught in the web of a chilling fate? As chaos erupted and the world around him blurred, Marcus clenched his fists, ready to face whatever darkness came next. What awaited him in the ruthless Roman streets was still a terrifying mystery, and with every step forward, he knew he was walking deeper into the unknown. Marcus pushed through the frenzy of the crowd, adrenaline surging in his veins. The air was thick with sweat and the metallic scent of fear. Faces were twisted with excitement and horror, the frenzied spectators raving for blood. He could see it now, a figure lying motionless on the ground, shadows gathering like vultures, eager for a reveal that threatened to ignite the frenzy further. The soldier beside him chuckled darkly, the hint of madness lurking in his eyes. "You wait long enough, you'll see how the real games are played," he hissed, leaning closer to Marcus, "just a spectacle for the mindless folk. Life means nothing here." Marcus recoiled, those words slithering into his head like a snake. He turned to steal a glance at the fallen figure. Their face was hidden, but the stillness twisted Marcus's gut. Was it an execution, or something worse? His instincts screamed for him to escape the madness, yet he felt rooted to the spot, caught in a gravitational pull toward the dark center of the chaos. Behind him, the crowd surged, roaring as one, feeding into the desire for carnage. Besides the raucous clamoring, Marcus heard dull thuds, the sound of feet against stone, someone approaching fast. His breath hitched, and he spun around, heart pounding in his chest. A woman pushed through the throng, desperation painted across her features as she searched for something or someone. She screamed yet again, voice cracking, "Caius! Where are you?" The cry pierced through the roil of bloodlust, cutting a path straight to Marcus's heart. Who was Caius? His mind spun with possibilities, wondering if the chaos had already claimed another victim. Before he could react, the soldier nudged him, "Keep your eyes sharp, boy. Every man here is a potential enemy." He pointed towards a group of fierce-looking men at the fringe of the amphitheater, their eyes glinting like daggers. It was a moment charged with raw tension, each second stretching out like a drawn bowstring. Could those men sense Marcus's fear, the way it lingered like an uninvited guest? Then, as if on cue, a hush fell over the crowd. The soldier's smirk faded, replaced by an unsettling seriousness. The body on the ground began to stir, drawing gasps and cries as the crowd leaned in closer, breathless. What could possibly happen next? Marcus's heart raced as he caught a glimpse of the body. A tattered tunic, bloodied, but suddenly the figure sprang to life, writhing and then scrambling to its feet. The crowd erupted in cheers and jeers, a conflicting mess of emotions converging before him. Who was this person? Champion? Victim? As the soldier beside him crackled with excitement, Marcus felt a chill in his bones. "Something tells me this is just the beginning," the soldier said, eyes wide with manic thrill. "Wait and see what they'll do to each other. It never loses its touch, does it?" Marcus swallowed hard, the weight of the moment crashing down on him. He was no longer just an observer, he was part of this dark game, thrust into a world of games and bloodshed. What choices lay before him in a place where survival meant becoming part of a horrific spectacle? The crowd roared again, and Marcus's stomach churned. Fear and uncertainty consumed him, buzzing loudly in his ears. He realized, with a sinking heart, that the line between survival and becoming a monster was thinner than he had ever imagined. But would he have the courage to navigate that line, or would he stumble into the depths of the darkness surrounding him? Before he could ponder further, a shout broke through the noise to arms. And with that command, chaos erupted anew, leaving Marcus teetering on the precipice of dread. What would he do now, and would anyone survive the night? The shrill command to arms cut through the air, shattering whatever fragile calm had held the crowd in thrall. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face as the throng transformed into a writhing mass of menacing energy. Their roars rose in a crescendo, drowning out his thoughts, plunging him deeper into a world where humanity unraveled amidst the chaos. As if responding to some unseen conductor, the fierce-looking men, the ones the soldier had been so anxious about, began to advance. Their eyes glimmered with fervor, and weapons gleamed under the flickering torches, reflecting the madness that surrounded them. Marcus felt a jolt of panic rush through him. He couldn't stay here. He had to move. He turned and fought against the tide of people, the press of bodies pushing him backward. He heard voices shouting, screaming, and a sickening crunch as someone fell beneath the mob. He glanced back, fear stabbing at his heart. Was this the moment he would lose himself in the crowd? Would he become just another casualty? "Caius!" The woman's voice screeched again, louder now, more desperate, searching. What had happened to this Caius? The thought gnawed at him as he stumbled forward, unsure of what to do. Was it noble to seek out a lost soul in search of another? Or was it madness when barbarism lurked just a breath away? A flash of movement caught his attention, a group of soldiers barreling toward him, eyes wild and full of rage. They surged forward, brandishing swords like extensions of their very souls, desperate for blood. Each clang of metal sent ripples of dread coursing through him. The crowd was shifting, merging toward a pivot of chaos driven by primal instincts, a push toward carnage that felt impossibly close. "Get out of the way!" someone yelled, but Marcus was frozen, paralyzed by fear. The soldier who had been with him had vanished, swallowed whole by the deluge of shouting faces. His one ally lost among this frenzy. Marcus felt so small, trapped in a world where every instinct fought against the other. He needed to escape, but every direction promised danger. He risked another glance behind him. The figure who had momentarily stirred was now part of the growing melee, attacks lashing out like lightning. The cheers from the crowd morphed into a gruesome symphony of violence, making his scalp prickle with dread. Who was this victim-turned-warrior? Did they have the will to fight back? Would they survive this nightmare? Caius. The woman's voice cut through again, filled with wild intensity that resonated with Marcus deep down. Someone was willing to risk everything for another. The thought stirred something in him, a flicker of determination mixed with fear. He could not let the night consume him. People were screaming now, too many to distinguish a single voice. And yet somehow, within that cacophony, the name Caius echoed again, an anchor amidst the rising tide of chaos. Driven by an unseen force, he pushed forward, his feet moving on instinct. Then, as he aimed toward the woman's anguished face, a gut-wrenching scream pierced through the air. It wasn't Caius, but a different man. A noble figure had crumpled to the ground, blood staining the stones. The footsteps continued to stomp past him, leaving behind a trail of horror that thrived off despair. Marcus's stomach turned. He was too close. The boundary between survival and becoming a participant in this savagery was practically thin enough to cut, but then, a figure appeared at the edge of his sight, right near the woman, the tattered tunic glimmering anew. Marcus's legs moved instinctively as he shouted through the turmoil, "I can help. I'll find him." The crowd roared louder, drowning him out, yet he pressed on. With urgency skimming under his skin, he reached the woman. "Do you know him? Where is Caius?" he shouted above the tumult. The wide, terrified eyes that met his left him breathless, but her reply was swallowed by mayhem, replaced by shouts and the clash of steel. All Marcus could do was gamble on hope, one last desperate throw into the unforgiving night. Just then, from the chaos, a shadow darted past him, a dark figure weaving through the fray. Was it Caius? Could he escape this madness? And then the truth dawned: Caius might hold the key to both their survival, or their destruction. Would Marcus dare to chase a shadow, step deeper into the fray for an unknown fate? Or would he let the tides of chaos claim him? With a deep breath, he took a step forward, heart racing, stepping through the doom that loomed ahead. Marcus surged toward the shifting mass, desperation fueling each frantic step. The crowd roared, a cacophony of chaos enveloping him. Panic churned in his gut as the shadow slipped through the fray, just out of reach. Was it Caius? He had to close the distance. His heart pounded like war drums, the ground vibrated underfoot as soldiers clashed against one another. Swords met with the unmistakable sound of shattering bone and cries of pain. A man stumbled past him, eyes wide with fear and covered in blood, and Marcus could hardly breathe with the weight of dread on his chest. "Caius!" he called again, voice cracking. The name echoed in the turmoil, hoping for a response in this hellish nightmare. He caught a glimpse of the glimmering tunic again, weaving between bodies like a ghost. It drew him forward, toward the desperation that painted the night red. He leaped over a fallen soldier, whose limbs lay twisted in a way that turned Marcus's stomach. Every step was a gamble. He could feel the pulse of danger thrumming worse than anything he had ever known, an adrenaline-fueled haze where survival meant abandoning all reason. His hands trembled, searching the shifting sea of faces for the woman, the shadow, for anyone who might guide him through this madness. Suddenly, Marcus was yanked back by a solid grip on his arm strong enough to break bones. He turned to face a soldier, grime and fury painted across his features. Panic flickered in his eyes, but there was determination, too. This man was ready to fight. "Get down!" the soldier barked, shoving him behind a wall of shields just as a flurry of arrows rained down. Breathless, Marcus tried to articulate the words that rushed through his mind, "I'm looking for Caius." But he was met with a steely glare that silenced him. "There's no time. The nobles want blood. They're hunting." The soldier's voice drifted off, fear creeping in like smoke. The chaos swelled, every moment seemed to inch closer to some dark conclusion. Heart racing, Marcus veered from the soldier's grip, scanning the chaos for the woman once more. He had to find her. He had to find Caius. Faint outlines of people pulled at his attention. The shadow moved again, this time appearing closer, but was it a friend or foe? The clash of weapons ignited again, a howl slicing through the air as another body fell. The rich smell of iron mingled with sweat, the cries weaving a tapestry of despair that swept through him. A knot formed tight in his throat. Just as he broke free from the soldier's watchful grip, he spotted her standing on the crumbling remnants of a shattered pillar, eyes scanning the crowd like a hawk on its prey. She cried out, "Caius!" Her voice rising above the calamity like a lullaby-turned battle cry. "Where is he?" Marcus yelled, desperation clawing at his throat. The woman turned, desperation mingling with empathy. "I don't know. But they're after him," she shouted back, fingers trembling like leaves in a storm. Her fear echoed his own. The gravity of her words settled deep within, weighing him down. Caius was more than just a name, he was a beacon. As if in defiance of the night's horror, Marcus felt a rush of adrenaline. This was beyond him now, this was a fight for life, each moment a precious heartbeat. He took a step forward, his own resolve hardening. "We need to find him." Just then, a loud shout erupted from the far side of the crowd. The dark figure, the one they sought, stood at center stage, surrounded. Marcus felt his breath hitch, dread tightening his chest. The man was standing still, defiant, against an army of rage. Without thought, he reached for the woman's arm, and together they edged forward, hearts pounding like war drums. As they pushed through the sea of chaos, a sudden flash, a blade cutting through the air, glinting in the torchlight. It was coming for Caius. "No!" he bellowed, panic striking as he launched forward, limbs moving on instinct, hope battling against the impending doom. But would they reach Caius in time? Would this fight for salvation seal their fate instead? Only the dark night could decide. Marcus surged forward, adrenaline roaring in his ears. He heard the blade slice through the air, a split second too late to comprehend what it meant. No! It couldn't end like this. Caius had to survive. The world narrowed down, shrinking to that flash of steel and the desperate figure standing defiantly before it. Marcus vaulted over bodies and clashing shields, his heart racing as sweat dribbled down his forehead. He couldn't let Caius fall. Those dark forces wished to snuff out the only hope they had. He lunged forward, reality falling away as he pushed through the chaos. Soldiers, their faces twisted with anger and fear, surged around him. But nothing could stop the fierce resolve pulsing in his veins. All that mattered was reaching Caius. A shout broke through the din. "Get down!" The voice was familiar, and instinctually, Marcus fell to the ground, feeling a rush of wind as the blade sailed over him and struck the ground in a dull thud. He glanced back to see the soldier from before, eyes wide and frantic, shouting orders to regroup. He cursed under his breath. He needed to be free of this confusion. The soldier might have been right, but Marcus had his own mission. He pulled himself to his feet, muscles aching and heart pounding, scanning the storm of chaos. Then he spotted her again, the woman. She hadn't moved from her perch, the crumbling pillar now a beacon for him amidst the fray. She was shouting, her voice barely breaking through the chaos, "Marcus, hurry!" Their eyes met, and he saw it, the urgency that flickered like a candle in her gaze. He knew what she meant. Together they could reach Caius, but time was running out. With a deep breath, he pushed forward, fighting his way through, dodging the chaos encircling him. A clash here, a scream there, and yet he kept moving, driven by fear and an indefinable bond pulling him closer to Caius. And then he saw him, their friend, standing his ground like a stone against the tide, his tunic soaked in a deep crimson that almost made Marcus falter. But he couldn't. Not now. Not ever. He could see the shadows closing in, and Caius was surrounded. That was when they made eye contact. "Marcus!" Caius shouted, desperation in his eyes. "Help me!" The words ignited a fire deep within. "Stay sharp!" Marcus yelled back, the crowd pressing in like predators around prey. He could see figures closing in on Caius, weapons glinting under the flickering torchlight. Caius was resilient, but alone, he wouldn't survive. Not against so many. Marcus! The woman cried out again, panting as she caught up to him. What are you planning? Part of him wanted to turn and urge her to flee, to save herself, but he couldn't. There was a bond between them, unshakable even under the weight of chaos. Together, he said, panting, determination in every breath. We end this. With a sharp nod, she stepped beside him. They edged toward Caius, hearts racing, the tension thick in the air. Their steps quickened as they spotted a group bearing down on Caius, a tight coil of soldiers ready to strike. Marcus's mind raced, searching for a plan. Marcus! Caius yelled again, the urgency clearer now as he stepped back, his back brushing against the shattered remains of the pillar. Hold on. Marcus charged forward, the air electric with danger. Each thrust of his limbs felt like an electric shock, propelling him closer through the mire, the demented chaos urging them all to flee. As he thrust forward, an edge of despair washed over him. If Caius fell, how could they ever sustain hope? Just as fists of dark chaos tightened around the friend they dared to protect, a sudden roar erupted from the crowd, enveloping them all in uncertainty. A flash caught the corner of Marcus's eye. A figure emerged nearby, cloaked in shadows with a stance that seemed both familiar yet ominous. His heart seized. Who was it? Just then, the world went still for a split second, breaths caught in collective throats. In the name of the Emperor, the figure snarled, and Marcus felt the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. The wind shifted dangerously as dark fate coiled around them. What had just approached? Could chaos become salvation, or was it too late? He felt the eyes turn towards him, the world closing in, and a new wave of dread took root. The figure stepped into the flickering light, and disbelief crashed into Marcus like a tidal wave. He could hardly breathe. It was Lucius. Their once ally now stood as a harbinger cloaked in night, his eyes gleaming with a madness that twisted the very fabric of alliances. Lucius! Caius yelled, fear and anger melding into one. What are you doing? Doing what had to be done. Lucius roared, his voice a thunderclap amidst the chaos. The soldiers surrounding Caius looked momentarily confused, glancing between their adversary and their former comrade. They hesitated, uncertain in a moment that was ripe with tension. Now was their chance. Marcus, we have to move. The urgency in the woman's voice shook him from the trance. He saw her face twisted with fear, her eyes darting between Caius and Lucius, looking for a way out. His heart raced as he felt the weight of the chaos around him. Together! He shouted, his voice barely cutting through the rising storm of battle. He nodded toward Caius. They had to strike now, while Lucius had their enemies momentarily stalled. Marcus surged forward, the woman at his side. As they ran, he caught sight of Lucius raising his hands, summoning the soldiers back into formation. Clear and concise commands erupted from his lips. It was now or never. Caius, brace yourself. Marcus cried out, lunging toward his friend. Caius didn't flinch. He held his ground, eyes locked on Lucius. It's too late for you. He shouted, his voice strained but defiant. Marcus lunged just in time, shoving Caius aside as a blade, unseen and swift, whistled through the air. It sunk into the ground where Caius had stood just moments before, and Marcus felt the chilling rush of danger skim past his ear. Caught in the frenzy, Lucius spun around, his face a mask of bewilderment as he staggered back. But the moment gave way to rage. You choose this treachery over reason? He spat, venom dripping from his words. Don't listen to him, Caius. Marcus shouted, we fight for each other. Suddenly, the crowd roared back to life as chaos reignited, warriors locked in battle, swords clashing, shields splintering. The army surrounding them morphed into a seething maelstrom of fury as loyalties hung by a thread. With renewed fervor, Marcus ran at Lucius, who was still reeling. But before he reached him, a familiar voice rang out behind him. "Marcus, look out!" It was the woman, urgency underlined with panic. He spun just in time to see a soldier barreling toward him, sword raised high, intent on ending this encounter. Reflexes took over as Marcus dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the swinging blade. He hit the ground hard, a jolt of pain shooting through him. "Get up!" The woman yelled, desperation spilling into her words. Gritting his teeth, Marcus pushed himself up, heart pounding, ready to leap back into the fray. He saw Caius tangling with Lucius, the two friends turned enemies battling fiercely, each thrust a reminder of their shared past. Marcus's gaze flicked across the battlefield, and as he steadied himself, a piercing shriek cut through the fray. The dark forces were merging in on them again, and shadows danced dangerously close. "What now?" The woman gasped, horror flooding her expression. He didn't have an answer. Chaos seemed to erupt from every corner, enveloping them. The weight of despair loomed heavily. If they failed today, the world would fall to darkness. Together Marcus whispered, steel returning to his voice, locking eyes with his companion's determination fueling their resolve once more. But then came a chilling laugh. The tension prickled, and Marcus turned to see the figure from the shadows, Lucius, striding forward, filled with malevolence. "You're too late. Darkness is upon us, and you are but ashes waiting to fade." As fear gripped his heart, he wasn't sure if hope was lost. The air shifted, the storm was rising. What could possibly save them now? The battlefield trembled around them, an orchestra of clashing metal and tortured cries vibrating deep in Marcus's bones. The woman stood poised, eyes wide with fear and determination. She reached for Marcus's arm, nails digging into his skin like she was afraid he might vanish into the chaos. "Marcus, this has to end," she shouted, her voice cutting through the din around them. "We can't let him win." "Right." He could hardly think straight, adrenaline making every thought tumble over itself like fallen soldiers. But he flashed her a reassuring nod, a promise forged in the heat of battle. He turned back to the melee, focusing on Caius, still locked in fierce combat with Lucius. Their fight had become a whirlwind of fury, each swing illustrating their strained connection, years of friendship collapsing into a singular moment of betrayal. Every attack exchanged spoke of lost trust, and Marcus could feel the weight of it crushing him, and then Lucius did something unexpected. In a swift motion, he pulled a hidden dagger from within his cloak and flung it toward Caius. It flew like a bolt of lightning, and Marcus's heart stopped. "Caius!" he screamed, darting forward, but time stretched like a taut bowstring, his feet feeling as if they were stuck in mud. The dagger plunged toward Caius, who barely managed to sidestep in time. But the movement came at a cost. Lucius took advantage, launching forward with a brutal swing at Caius, the sharp glint of metal determined to meet flesh. The clash echoed through the air, and as they wrestled for dominance, ground beneath their feet grew muddy with desperation. The woman surged beside Marcus, eyes set with a fierce intensity. "We need to fight back. Focus. We cannot let him split us apart." Marcus's gaze darted toward the encroaching ranks of the dark soldiers. There were too many. Panic bubbled, threatening to swallow him whole. His stomach twisted. "If we pull together, we stand a chance." "Then let us do it." They charged, hearts hammering in synchrony as they rushed into the thick of battle. Marcus could feel every muscle scream from the effort, a wildfire igniting in his chest. Through the chaos, he caught fleeting glimpses of fear and valor dancing across soldiers' faces, each expression a mirror for his own turmoil. He drew his sword, the weight of it reassuring against his palm. No way would he back down. He wasn't just fighting for their future, he was fighting for Caius, for the woman beside him, for every soul that lay entwined with hope. "Stay together!" he yelled again, leading their charge toward Lucius, but as they neared, the shadows twisted, dark figures coiling like serpents around them. A guttural roar split the air as dark magic crackled. Lucius had tapped into something ancient, something monstrous. Energy whipped and crackled, forming a barrier around him. Fools! Lucius spat, voice deep and mocking. You know nothing of true power. Marcus stumbled, resistance crashing into him like a wave. The energy rippled, striking Caius, sending him sprawling back. Caius! Panic clawed in Marcus's throat as he lunged toward him. Too late. Lucius bellowed, laughter echoing through the din of battle like a haunting melody. Only darkness remains. The world dimmed, shadows gathering, as fear clutched Marcus's heart. He could barely see Caius struggling to rise, pain etched into his features. Then like a storm breaking, the woman beside him surged, her own sword held high. You think you're invincible? She shouted back, voice steady, bright. You underestimate us. That spark of defiance ignited hope within Marcus as he regrouped with her. Together. We fight together. But before they could respond, the ground trembled, and a sinister laugh filled the air like a warning bell. The shadows grew thicker. An icy breath washed over them. As Lucius motioned again, something began to erupt from the ground, a shadowy creature, born of chaos, its eyes glowing with a malevolence that sent dread curling into Marcus's gut. What demon is this? He shouted, feeling the weight of reality crushing down. The woman stepped forward, her resolve unbroken. We have to defeat him. He can't control it. Hope flickered like a dying ember. Would they be able to stand against Lucius and a creature forged of darkness? Or had hope already slipped away, leaving only despair in its wake? Time hung heavy. What would they face next? The creature emerged fully, its form twisting and warping, as if it were a shadow given life, clawed limbs stretching, teeth bared in a silent scream. It towered over them, a nightmarish figure that mocked the faint glimmers of hope lingering in the air. What have we unleashed? Marcus breathed, the words heavy with dread. Don't look back. Focus on Lucius. The woman barked, determination pulsing in her voice. But fear spiraled through Marcus like poison, gnawing at his resolve. The shadow creature let out a howl that pierced the battlefield, reverberating through the souls of those who heard it. The cry was nothing human, it was pure, raw chaos, igniting panic among fighting men and women alike. Soldiers staggered back, eyes wide with terror, dropping their weapons as they realized they faced something beyond their understanding. Form a line. Marcus shouted, rallying those around him. But deep down, doubt twisted like a knife in his gut. Could they withstand this? Did Lucius truly possess this kind of power? Lucius's laughter echoed again, a chilling sound that froze Marcus's blood. Did you really think you could stop me? The dark sorcerer's eyes glowed with unholy zeal, and he raised his arms, drawing the shadows closer to him. Behold your demise, fools! Then, in a frenzy of dark magic, Lucius directed the shadow creature toward them. It surged forward, a mass of swirling dark intent, ready to wreak havoc. Get ready! The woman yelled, gripping her sword tightly. Marcus's heart raced. Adrenaline surged as he positioned himself beside her. Caius, finally pushing himself off the ground, staggered up, his breath ragged but resolve ignited. I'm with you, he gasped, solidarity burning in his eyes. Together! Marcus shouted, raising his sword. The sounds of clashing steel and screams of agony washed over them like a tidal wave, but in this moment, he felt clarity surge through him. They were not alone, their fight was one of light pushing against an overwhelming darkness. As the creature lunged, Marcus ducked beneath its shadowy claws, rolling to the side and coming up ready to swing. He struck, his blade meeting the amorphous surface. It sank into its body for a heartbeat, then pulled back as if the shadow had swallowed his strike. His confidence faltered for a split second. It's not enough. Use the light. The woman urged, her voice cutting through his despair. Feed it what hope we have left. Hope. The word echoed in his mind, igniting something within. Drawing on every ounce of courage, he focused on the warmth inside him, the memories of laughter, warmth, and camaraderie. Caius. Think of everything we fought for. They joined their voices. Together. They roared, a collective shout weaving through the chaos as they channeled their energy into their swords. Flickers of light burst forth, spilling across the battlefield, illuminating the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. The creature recoiled, shrieking its primal roar, the shadows twisting and writhing. It was almost as if it was alive, crying out against the very essence of light that dared to challenge it. But Lucius was far from finished. You think mere light can defeat me? His voice boomed, and with a sweep of his arm, he conjured a storm of dark energy hitting their growing light like a wall. Push! The woman shouted, her eyes fierce. Don't let him take it from us. They tightened their grip, pouring everything they had into their blades. The sheer force of their combined hope fought back against Lucius's dark storm. For a moment, the world held its breath, waiting for the outcome. As their light began to burn brighter, the ground shook once more, and from the depths of the shadows, something even darker stirred. An unnatural wind whipped through the battlefield, extinguishing flickers of light as if they were mere candles. What now? Caius gasped, struggling to stand against the force of the darkness closing in around them. Marcus could feel a pull deep within him, a calling that suggested neither hope nor despair. It was something primal, something that beckoned him beyond the mortal realm. We must fight harder. He yelled, but deep down, a sinking feeling clawed at him. The woman's eyes widened, fear spreading across her face. Marcus, there's something else here. Something, watching. As the shadows thickened, something began to take shape behind Lucius, a towering figure that eclipsed everything around it. What fresh horror had they awakened? It's not over, Marcus whispered, fear curling in his chest tighter. What dark presence was it that lingered? What would they have to face next? The ground trembled beneath Marcus's feet as visibility plunged into an abyss of darkness. The towering figure behind Lucius solidified, a grotesque silhouette shimmering in the chaos. It loomed, impossibly vast and writhing, a thing deprived of mercy or reason, pulsing with pure malevolence. Everyone! Stay together! Marcus shouted, though panic clawed at his throat. The soldier closest to him, a young man with shaking hands, looked nearly ready to bolt, eyes wide with fear. Marcus! The woman yelled, slicing through the encroaching gloom. We need to push forward. We can't let this creature break our spirits. Together, they forged ahead, swords held high, illuminating their small circle with faltering beams of hope. The shadow creature thrashed violently, each swipe of its claw sending tremors through the ground, stirring a sliver of doubt. Focus! Marcus urged as the acrid scent of decay wafted around them, causing his stomach to roil. Remember what we're fighting for. His words felt feeble against the monstrous specter. The thing took a step closer, its eyes like the deepest pits of night. You're nothing to me, it growled in a voice that sent shivers down Marcus's spine. Your light will perish. The air thickened with dread, a palpable weight pressing down on their shoulders. As it moved, the very shadows of the battlefield bent toward it, sucked into the vortex of chaos, as if the universe conspired to quench their spark. Caius faltered, his grip on the sword loosening, eyes flicking from the beast to the gathering shadows. How can we fight this? We're outmatched. He cried, fear bubbling in his voice. No. The woman shouted back, her resolve unshakable. If you falter, we all do. Remember our victories. Marcus clenched his jaw, feeling the truth in her words. Flickers of their journey together flashed in his mind, days steeped in laughter, nights battling through adversity, each memory a thread weaving strength into the fabric of their fight. I won. Back down. He roared, digging his heels into the ground as he lifted his sword again. Suddenly, raw energy crackled through him like an electric current, igniting his spirit and pushing back against the tide of despair. In that fleeting moment, he understood, this shadow was not just a creature, it was a manifestation of their own fears, doubts bred through pain. If they wanted to vanquish it, they had to sever the chains binding them to fear. Channel it. Channel your fight. Marcus urged, finding that courage within. He raised his blade high, light cascading across the battlefield, illuminating the anguished faces of the soldiers around him. Every flickering spark was a promise that darkness could not consume them. The creature lunged again, claws extended, but this time they stood firm, fighting not just against the beast, but against everything that darkened their hearts. With each clash of steel, they powered their swords with memories of victory, their fear transforming into defiance. Together, they shouted again, a powerful incantation that rang through the chaos, intertwining their spirits. Light surged forth as their energies combined, forging a brilliant aura that blazed defiantly in the face of despair. Yet, just as they thought the tide was turning, Lucius's laughter erupted from the shadows again, a derisive melody echoing the depths of their uncertainty. Fools! You haven't faced the worst of this yet. He raised an arm, and with a flick of his wrist, summoned tendrils of shadow that wrapped around the will of the darkness like snakes' coils, amplifying its size and fury. No! Stay focused! The woman shouted, trying to break through the consuming darkness. But as the tendrils reached for them, Marcus felt a sudden dread surge. What was Lucius planning? What awaited them next in this chaos? With desperation clawing at his throat, he realized survival may only come at a terrible cost. Would they truly be able to fend off the very shadows that rose from within? The darkness thickened around them, and Marcus dared to glance back. But it wasn't just fear he saw. Inside that swirling void lay something more, the very foundation of their world, unraveling before their eyes. Marcus! Came Caius's voice, frantic and edged with despair. What happens now? A cold dread gripped Marcus. They hadn't just awakened a creature, they were on the brink of losing everything they ever stood for. What dark twist awaited them? Would they stand together, or would they succumb to the very shadows they sought to banish? The battlefield rumbled like a dying beast, the shadows thickening as Lucius grinned, reveling in the chaos he had unleashed. Like darkness consuming light, despair clawed at Marcus's heart. Hold fast! The woman cried, her voice cutting through the encroaching gloom. We fight for each other. Gathering every ounce of courage, Marcus tightened his grip on his sword, eyes ablaze with determination. Together! He shouted, echoing her spirit. Caius nodded, struggling to rise once more, adrenaline igniting his own resolve. They were not alone, they had each other, and that meant everything. As the monstrous shadow loomed, its claws reaching out, the trio forged forward, refusing to yield. Remember us! Marcus shouted. He felt hope fizzling, but he channeled his fear into a battle cry. They charged, hearts racing, side by side, their connection sparkling like the swords in their hands. The creature lunged, but they were quicker. Marcus dodged just in time, sweeping in with a powerful strike, his blade kissing the shadow. For a fleeting moment, it flickered. It recoils! He yelled, hope igniting like a flame in the darkness. Yes! The woman echoed, a fierce light in her eyes as she joined him, blade raised. It's alive! It fears us! But just as they pressed on, Lucius's dark laughter slashed the air, bringing cold dread. Fools! You think you can conquer the dark? Then he raised his hands, summoning shadows that wrapped tightly around the creature, enhancing it. No! Marcus shouted, panic rising again, a stone in his chest. The creature, once seemingly hurt, now thrust forward with renewed fury, its presence swelling like a storm brewing in the distance. It lunged, claws striking. Together! The woman roared, pulling Marcus and Caius close as they found themselves surrounded, shadows threatening to drown their light. Pull your strength! Caius cried, tightening his jaw. Remember what we've accomplished. It's not just about survival, it's about hope. Marcus felt it, the rush of shared memories binding them tighter, a web spun of laughter, challenges faced, and the warmth of camaraderie. For friendship. He yelled, and as if fueled by the spirit of those bonds, their light burst forth, illuminating the darkness like a beacon. The shadow shrieked, clinging then releasing upon impact. Now! Strike! The woman commanded, gripping her sword tightly and charging forward. They followed, a whirlwind of defiance, every step fueled by the past and the promise of a future. Swords sang as they met the dark creature, each clash resonating with determination. Push! Marcus shouted again, feeling the surge of power as they struck in unison. For hope! Lucius faltered, anger seeping into his features. Impossible! You'll fall, you hear me? But with each slash of their weapons, they brought forth their unwavering light, growing stronger, radiant against the shadows, fueling a growing fire. Caius, fighting beside them, shouted, "This ends now, Lucius. We won't succumb to your madness." The creature wailed, swirling, caught in their onslaught, dark energy recoiling as they struck with ferocity and love. Using their shared strength, they pierced deeper into the darkness, finally catching the creature off guard, driving deep against the very center of shadows. Together, they shouted as bright beams of light erupted in a triumphant blaze, piercing through the dark like a raging sun. In that pivotal moment, they felt unity. Time froze, reality split, a crack of thunder. Everything they fought against, all the terror that threatened to claim their souls, melted away under the sheer force of their longing to be free, to stand tall together. The light burst more brightly than anything they had ever imagined. The creature disintegrated, screams echoing before melting into silence. In the wake of the chaos, Lucius stumbled back, disbelief hanging in the air, fury casting dark shadows across his face. "No!" he hissed, the dark magic shrinking around him. "We will not lose ourselves." Marcus countered, stepping forward, the weight of victory swelling within him. "You will never rid us of hope, Lucius. Your darkness ends here." The specter of shadows faded beneath their combined might, evaporating into nothingness. Lucius, with only darkness to clutch, fell back into the void, unable to claim victory, lost among the remnants of his own treachery. The battlefield grew deathly still, exhilaration rushed in, soaking them with triumph, but beneath it lingered that bittersweet moment. Victory came at a price, yet it was worth it. They were alive. Side by side. "Caius!" Marcus cried out, staggering, closing the distance to where his friend stood. A smile broke across Caius's face, weary yet alive with the shadows finally vanquished. "We made it, didn't we?" As they embraced, the bonds of their friendship solidified under the fading light of battle. The woman joined them, her eyes shining bright as she beamed at her companions, realizing they had faced the abyss and emerged stronger. "This is just the beginning," Marcus whispered, holding both his friends close. A new dawn approached, casting golden rays across a battlefield once filled with dread, now transformed into a place of hope. Together, they turned to face the horizon. "Onward," Caius said, and hand in hand, they took a step into the light, ready to embrace whatever challenges the world would throw their way. Their hearts sang as they moved toward the future, bonded by an unbreakable light. That day became a tale of survival and triumph, a testament to the power of unity over darkness. Now, before you go, this is your moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What did you think of the ending? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's keep this community growing strong together.